What's up, everybody? It's your guy, Ike Jones. We are here inside of LAUB Town. Final score from Starkville. Auburn goes down 64 to 58. Let's get in here and talk about it. Before we do, make sure you are doing the necessary for sharing the video at the War Report out there on social media. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. But let's get in here and talk about what we just witnessed, which was Auburn not breaking 60 points, man. This is shades of last year's Auburn team offensively. It was a lot of open shots not being knocked down and a lot of just careless turnovers. And I say a lot because statistically, it's not going to look like a lot, but it was just not good offense. And listen, props to Mississippi State. They are a good defensive basketball team. But Auburn came out absolutely uninspired at points during this game. And it just isn't the type of team, that just a week ago, everybody was gushing over saying this is definitely a Final Four team. This is not a team that's going to get to the Final Four playing like this, but we got a lot that we need to discuss here. Didn't get a chance to get the rapid reaction for the Bama game, but we are here. Rapid reaction. Mississippi State gets the win. Auburn now is still yet to get a quad one victory on the season. Yet to get a quad one win on the season against the best teams in the situations where you're playing tournament level teams. Auburn has not found a way to get a victory. If they're not blowing teams out, then they are not winning right now, it seems as if. So, knew this was not going to be an easy win. If you guys listen to me at all, hey, listen, I get it. People think I don't know what I'm talking about, but I said before SEC play started that this Mississippi State team or game was going to be a tough win. There's another one down the road at Florida. People have circled the Tennessee game as the big game. There's another one down the road at Florida that's going to be a tough place to go and get a road W, and you still got to go win at Ole Miss as well. So you don't have any easy wins. You can't take anybody for granted in this conference. You have to come out and beat teams. Teams aren't just going to lay down for you. Tough road loss today for an Auburn team that, again, just looked really uninspired on offense. Looked good defensively at points, but then some lapses on defense every now and then. Again, this was shades of last year's Auburn team where it was just inexplicable, just bad timing for where the effort just wasn't there. And Mississippi State looked like the hungrier team in this scenario. Leading scorer for Auburn, once again, was Janai Broome with 14 points. He had to play 34 minutes today because Dylan Cardwell was only able to play 6 minutes. And so that is a big reason, I think, where, if you're able to have Cardwell play more quality minutes. I was looking forward to the matchup between Cardwell and Tolu Smith. You never really got to see that because Cardwell only played 6 minutes. It will be interesting to kind of see how Auburn figures out how to bounce back from this. But definitely appreciate you guys jumping in here with me. Final score, again, 64 to 58. There's no person that I feel like really had a good game for Auburn in this. Nobody really had a good game for Auburn. But props to, listen, the guy who, if you watch the pregame breakdown that I did, the preview, I talked about the ability of Hubbard he knocked down some pretty tough buckets, and he got them crucial buckets when they needed to. 64 points, and we talk about what their average is on the season. That's not a lot of points for anybody. But they were able to get it. Like there's not scenarios in which you want to see Auburn lose a game where the other team only scores 64 points. You're holding them below their average of 74, but you're a team that averages 83. And you've got to figure out how to be able to get more than 50. What did I say? What we just say the final was 58. 58's just that's abysmal. That's abysmal. When you look at the numbers, 25% from three. Now, Mississippi State only shot 24%. They're a terrible three-point shooting team. That's not unexpected. But Auburn only knocked it down to 6 of 24. Now, they didn't get to the magic number that I wanted them to get to, which is 7. But even with 7, you don't win this basketball game the way you play the remainder of it. 34% from the field total is really the story of this. Layups getting missed. Just not an inability to keep Mississippi State off of the offensive glass. They got 14 offensive rebounds in this game that led to 12 second chance points. That's your deficit right there. I mean, if you don't give up 12 second chance points, which is not a lot, but it's too many when you're only getting 3. You only got 3 second chance points from Auburn there. So you can't go shoot 34% from the from the field, and you can't give up 16 offensive boards in this game. Total rebounds, Mississippi State out-rebounded Auburn 45-30, a 15 rebound disparity. Auburn hasn't been dominated like that on the boards since very early in this. Actually, I don't think there was any game where they got dominated on the boards. They've lost the rebounding battle, but a 15 board disparity is, again, that's one of those things where you just you question the effort that got brought into it. I think Janai Broome had to play way too many minutes, so his legs were just kind of dead by the end of that game. He still did a good look. Janai has stepped up at the free throw line. He hit some clutch free throws in this game, 3 of 3 on the game for him from free throw, but playing 34 minutes is just not a good. Janai should not have to play 34 minutes in this game and only get 7 shots up. That's crazy talk. 34 minutes and he only got to shoot the ball 7 times. Even though I think Mississippi State would have done a really good job of collapsing on him and getting the ball out of his hands, you've got to play through Janai a little bit more to make that Mississippi State defense be more honest in the way that they're attacking you defensively. Just not a good game. Actually, I take that back. I said nobody had a good game. I think Chaney Johnson had a really good game. Only 3 of 4 shooting, 8 points, but I think his effort was there on both ends of the floor. He took good shots. He didn't have any silly turnovers. As a matter of fact, he didn't have a single turnover in this game, I don't think. No turnovers for Chaney Johnson. Of the 11 turnovers, which it felt like a lot more than 11 in this game, of the 11 turnovers, none of those came from Chaney Johnson. Conversely, I think there's a couple of guys who had some really bad games in this one, and we'll get to that side of it in just a minute. But again, appreciate you guys jumping in here. LAUB post-game reaction. Mississippi State gets the win. Auburn now 2 straight losses in SEC play. And it's going to be an uphill battle now to try to get to the regular season SEC crown, considering the road that you have left that you have to utilize to get there. There is not an easy game left on this schedule, except maybe Vanderbilt at home. And even that's not like a gimme game, right? Like, again, you don't just count games as dubs just because the record. And I think that's a misconception that a lot of people have, is they look at the record of a team and say, oh, that's not a good team. You kind of have to look at the way that team plays basketball and then kind of who they've beaten. This is the same Mississippi State team that beat Tennessee earlier in the year. This is not an easy win to go out there and get. So it's not a bad loss, but it is a loss that you should not have had, considering I still feel Auburn is the better basketball team, did not play like the better team tonight. Mississippi State gave you every opportunity to get this game. They shot 50% from the free throw line. They had 18 trips to the free throw line, only were able to get 9. They knocked him down when it counted at the end of the game, but they gave you a lot of opportunities to be in this basketball game, and you just basically were like, nah, we're good. I'd rather not. So definitely an interesting game to try to break down and figure out what's happening right now. I am going to, for sure, get into the film on this one and talk about what we need to do to get better in this game. But Damian Smith, I'll get to the comment section here, says sloppy game. Absolutely. But this is the kind of game Mississippi State wants to be in. They want to be in they want to muddy it up, make it ugly, low scoring game. Make it to where they can just make just enough plays to win. This is the kind of game they wanted to have in this one. I talked about it like Mississippi State would have been happy for this game to be in the 60s, and that's right around where it is. And I said that Auburn needed the game to be closer to the 70s. So Mississippi State got the points that I thought they were going to get, which was going to be low to mid 60s, but Auburn needed to be able to score 70-plus points in this game. So difficult one for sure. Robert Guy jumps in. Easy reaction. Auburn played like straight trash today. Lazy on offense. No movement in the paint. Straight trash. Auburn can blow teams out by 20 points, but can't win quad 1 games. Shaking my head. Haven't proven to be able to win them so far this season. So, yeah, I'd say you can't do it until you do it. So, and that's the thing. Auburn's got to prove that they can win games like this. If you follow me on Twitter, that's one of the things I said, is that Auburn has to figure out a way to prove that they can win these types of games. Not for me as a fan, for themselves. They need to be able to feel like they can get in these moments and get wins against teams that are tough and aren't going to just go away. You're going to play a tough Georgia team coming up here that's going to fight and claw to the last minute. You still got a Florida team that's really going to be able to go out there and score points, and they're going to play tough defense. They're going to be tough on the offensive glass. You got to figure out a way to win those types of games. You've got to come and you've got to beat a feisty Missouri team who doesn't go out. South Carolina's playing lights out right now. They come to the crib, but you still have to put them away. They're not just going to walk in there and lay down because they're in Neville Arena. There's no easy games left on this schedule for Auburn. You've got to go to Ole Miss and figure out how to get a road quad one win. You haven't done it yet. You got to figure out how to do that. There are games that are still left on this schedule, all of them being winnable. You got to go to Tennessee. You have Kentucky come into the house. You got to figure out how to win these games. There's not going to be any easy games in conference. And I think people just, again, you look at the record of a team and you say, oh, you're better than them. You are better. Like, let's be clear. Again, I say Auburn, I think, is a better basketball team than Mississippi State 1 through 10. But they played a better 40 minutes of basketball, and that's really all that matters at the end of the day is who's going to play the best 40 minutes of basketball when you go inside and you toss the ball up and say, let's go play. So we'll see. Tony Baker, sorry to say, win or lose this game. This is before, I guess, we started the game. This game was pathetic. They were lazy, careless at times, and act like they could care less. Got to stop throwing the ball away and taking stupid shots. Embarrassing. I don't want to put it on care. Like I hesitate to say that because I don't think that any collegiate or professional athlete, or some professional athletes, I don't think that these collegiate athletes don't care. They absolutely do care, but mental lapses happen, effort and energy happen, and I think that they just came into this game flat. They said on the broadcast before it started, and a lot of people were talking about, Coach Pearl was tinkering with the starting lineup, and this was a bad move on his part. It was some sort of disciplinary reason why those two young men who were not on the starting lineup, Denver Jones and Aiden, were not in the starting lineup. And Aiden Holloway, I don't know why I brain fart right there, were not in the starting lineup. So if you're Coach Pearl, you just kind of have to stick to whatever your rules are and say, hey, you guys broke the rules, so you're not going to get to start this game. But that's why you're supposed to have guys that can go out there, step up and play. So, I don't fault Coach Pearl for enforcing his rules. I fault the guys for not going out there and playing ball. This one isn't on Coach Pearl. The only thing I think that Coach Pearl could have done a little bit better maybe in this game is late in the game, right around the 3 or 4 minute mark after that under 5 break, gotten Dylan Cardwell back into the game again and let him just utilize that final foul to give Janai Broome a little bit of a break, even if Janai didn't want to come out of the game, because Janai's legs just weren't there for him to be able to fight for some of those boards that they needed to be able to get down there late. Let's see here. Let's see. Lawrence Robinson jumps in and says turnovers and horrible rebounding. Yeah, I mean, listen, 11 turnovers in a game is not a lot. It's not a lot of turnovers, but it's just enough to lose you a game when you're only, within 10 points. It's enough to lose you that game, especially, again, it seems like they were just the most ill-timed, like, for whatever reason, when Auburn would make the run to close it out to get within a possession or tie the game up or take the lead, I said this on Twitter, this is the exact same thing that happened in the Bama game. Trey Donaldson gets a steal, gets a full court layup to tie the game in this one, then hits a free throw to take the lead. And then after that point, Auburn just seemed to all right, we fought to get back in the game. And then they just mental lapse, silly play, bad shot. They for whatever reason, they were unable to keep their composure fighting back into the game. They used all their effort to come back and then relaxed. And that's not going to be a recipe for winning games like this, because Mississippi State wasn't scared of the moment. They were like, all right, fine. We just need to go out here and make a play. And that's exactly what they did. Let's see here. Damian Smith says we are the Miami Dolphins of college basketball. Very mid, bad teams by double digits, and lose to good teams. That's not a bad comparison. That's what Miami did this season. I think that the difference I would say between Miami and this is no disrespect for anybody who is a Miami fan, they're kind of a finesse team. And so when they play against teams that are more physical, that's usually what the issue is. Auburn's issue isn't necessarily physicality. They've played against physical teams in the likes of Texas A&M, right? They've played against physical teams and won basketball games, right? But the issue for them has been in these 2 games with the losses, which, again, I get people are going to super react to a lost basketball game and say, oh, they're a terrible team, they can't win. You haven't proven that you can win, so there's no remedy for saying, what you can and can't do until you do it. But I will say that this team has to figure out, right now, there's not really an identity offensively. Mississippi State knows where they're going to go get a bucket when it's time to go get a bucket. When it's time to go get the bucket, they know, all right, put the ball in Josh Hubbard's hands. He's going to figure out a way, and we're going to live and die with whatever decision he makes. To this point, and what you need in close games really is guards that you can do that with. Either they're going to make the right play or they're going to make the shot. Auburn has not found an offensive identity that says late game, this is where we're going to go with the basketball. Again, Coach Bruce Pearl, I talked about this in the pregame and a little bit in my analysis of the Bama game, likes to go to the high screen and roll late in games and let the guards be the guys that dictate it. I think that philosophy has to change and let Janai Broome be the guy that facilitates. And you live and die with the decision that Janai makes as far as whether or not he's going to pass the ball. Now, in a game like this where he's playing way too many minutes, probably not. But you need to be able to figure out where we're going to go get buckets from. And they haven't found that out yet. TS says SEC road games are tough. Absolutely are. That is a tough game to play on the road in the SEC. Auburn's got to figure out a way to win a couple of these. Listen, the question was asked of me earlier, is Auburn going to have less than 5 losses this season? And I was pretty adamant about, I don't think that that's going to happen. I think that this is still a very good team that can make a deep run in the tournament. But there's some unanswered questions that have to happen in these tough games. Now, the good thing about it is the tournament's not a road environment. It's away from Neville, but it's a neutral site. And so Auburn's proven that they can win neutral site games. But it's the caliber of the opponent that Auburn has to figure out how to play better against and how to win close games. That's what Auburn has not proven that they can do at home or on the road. They haven't been tested at home yet. So I don't know if Auburn can win a close game at all yet this season. I don't know. Home, road, neutral, don't know if they can win a close basketball game at all this season. And I think that you have to figure out what your identity is to be able to do that. Steve Bradley says, many reasons for the loss today. Shaking my head. We are, as BP said, we are not a top 16 team and has showed it on the road. If you are that good, you win on the road. Yeah. Good teams win on the road for sure, and you have to figure out a way to get those wins. I think good teams just figure out how to close out games. Again, road, home, neutral, doesn't matter. Closing out games when they're close. Auburn right now is appearing to be a bit of a front runner, right? Like when everything's good, we're all, happy and smiles. And I mean, that goes for the fan base too. A little bit of front runner. You have to figure out adversity a little bit and not feel like you got to cakewalk through everybody to be good. Good teams find ways to win games like this. Auburn hasn't proven they can do it yet. TJ Powell says, we are not physical enough offensively around the rim. Pathetic. I don't know that physicality around the rim is necessarily. I think the refs actually. Dylan Cardwell is one of the more physical players that you'll find in college basketball. Jalen Williams has been very physical. Janai Broome can deal with physicality. I don't know about that being the case. What I do think, though, is that the refs took Dylan Cardwell out of this game pretty early with some silly fouls by him and then some kind of questionable calls as far as I think they were allowing Mississippi State to be more physical than they were allowing Auburn to be at points in this game. And that made it difficult for us to be physical and really be able to assert ourselves because Auburn has been the reason why Auburn's won a lot of games this season has been they've been the more physical team. So now I will say Mississippi State probably was the more physical team today, but I don't think that that's an accurate assessment of Auburn as a team as lacking physicality. Ravin Patel says this team needs to find itself again. Yeah, I agree. The identity. My thing is, I don't know that Auburn really ever found itself, right? Like the identity of this team has still yet to be determined because I haven't seen this team in adversity. And that's what Coach Pearl has been saying. Like when you get into the tough moments, that's when you kind of reveal who you are. So, and I'll walk back my previous statements about physicality, and Auburn's not a physical team. They have to be physical in those moments, and maybe they are good at bullying other teams that aren't going to push back. So maybe we got to figure. But they did it versus Texas A&M. That's why it's weird, right? Like you see teams that you know are physical, and they've been physical with them and been able to physically dominate them. Texas A&M is one of the toughest teams in this conference. They push everybody around. They didn't push Auburn around, but for some reason, Auburn hasn't been able to find that mojo outside of Neville Arena. TS jumps in, says Mississippi State beat the Hump by 7, right? Yes, that is correct. They beat them earlier this season. So again, this is not a bad team. Like, I think the record makes people feel like teams are good versus bad. Records aren't really indications of good or bad. Now, they're not a good offensive team. They're awful offensively. I mean, I talked about what Auburn shot from the floor. Mississippi State shot 44%. That's not great. That's around what they average, though, right? Like, they are who they are, right? They're not a good rebound. I mean, excuse me. They're not a good offensive team. They're not good from the free throw line. What they are is effort, hustle, offensive boards, extra possessions, tough defense, grit, grind out a win team. And that's exactly what they did in this game. So they did exactly what they wanted to do in this game, and they played the style of basketball they wanted to play here. Sherman Sawyer says, we miss a lot of layups in a defensive battle. You have to get those bunnies. I agree 100%. Like, I was baffled at the one Jalen Williams missed when at that point in time, I believe either Auburn was up by 1 or down by 1. I don't remember what it was, but whatever it was, they either had a chance to extend the lead or take the lead they got a steal off the inbounds, and he just blew it. I was just like, yo, I don't get how you missed that one, man. Not in that moment. In that moment, you've got, like, especially the Jalen Williams that just put a dude on the poster in the first half. Go up and dunk that, bro. Like, why are you trying to sneak that over the rim, man? Either go get fouled or go put somebody on the poster again. So yeah, I thought that one was a tough one for you. You can't miss that one right there at the rim. Tony Baker jumps back in. I'm sorry, but Holloway is looking like a freshman with the careless play and ill-advised shooting. Listen, he's looked like a freshman all year. That's something that I've been saying, and I'm glad that nobody's crucified for me telling the truth about it. Aiden Holloway has looked like a freshman baller. Josh Hubbard's a freshman, right? So it's not really just about freshmen, but he's looked like one. He has played like a freshman in moments where, you know, you need a big shot, and he's just not been able to knock it down. Like, this was a game where I felt like Aiden could have flourished in, because Mississippi State was committed to going under on a lot of the screens, and Aiden could have been able to come around on top of those screens. Again, I talked about this in the pregame, man. Like, if Mississippi State goes under, Aiden's got to be able to knock that down. He just wasn't able to do it. He was like, from the field in this game, Aiden Holloway, 2 of 8. Both of those 3-pointers, but like the 4 that he missed, I don't think that he shot a contested 3 in this game. I don't know that of the 5, 3-point field goals that he missed, I don't know that any of them were contested. I have to go back and look at it. I think every single one of them were as wide open a look as you're going to get without somebody falling down. So you got to just make those shots, man. He's got to get in the gym and just decide that he's going to lock in on this. But yeah, and then the turnovers were not good from him. He had 3 turnovers, and I think all 3 of them were pretty bad. Like, he's driving down and he tries to no-look one to the corner for some reason, and he and Chaney weren't on the same page on that one. The overshot one that he threw, the home run shot too, he overthrew that one. I can't remember what the third one was, but all of them felt like bad turnovers from him. And then the 3 at the end that he airballs, it's a good contest that's one that was contested. So I apologize, Aiden, if you happen to watch this game. That one was a contested 3, but nobody even touched it. So that was a situation where the contest bothered him enough that he airballed it, right? But I don't think that he really took that in from a good shooting form. Like, it wasn't a great attempt for him. And then he missed another one, like kind of from the logo walking into one, right? So it's just like you got to take better shots for sure if you're Aiden Holloway in that scenario. And we've got to figure out, close games, end of games, who's going to be our closers. And I don't think that Coach Pearl has found a person yet that he can say, listen, we're going to put the ball in your hands and we're going to ride with you. And this, again, a lot of people felt like I've talked about this before, that Wendell Green was a ball hog, but this is why Wendell ends up having to shoot a bunch of shots at the end of the game, because he's one of the guys who's not afraid to take those shots. Now, his stature made it where a lot of those shots ended up being more difficult than they needed to be, but you've got to find a guy who you can put the ball in their hands, and maybe it's KD, right? KD's been a guy who's been able to come up in those moments. He didn't have a particularly great game either. He played pretty good defensively. I will say I think KD had a good defensive game, but I don't think that, offensively, he was being more patient. He wasn't forcing things for the most part, but I don't think he had a really great offensive game either. When he got into the lane, I think he was, worried about contact more than he was worried about making shots in a few of those occasions. They still have not consistently found mid-range shots. Trey Donaldson early in the game had one. He took it, he missed it, and he never came back to shoot it again. And the mid-range is going to be there a lot for this team. Justin Thomas says he feels like Denver needs more looks. Denver played a decent game. When I talk about nobody really had a good game, Denver didn't have a bad game. I just think that Denver, I think him coming off the bench, really he just in the flow of the games. 2 of 6 shooting, 2 of 3 from 3 though, perfect from the free throw line, 2 of 2 for a total of 8 points. It's just and then actually one of the other shots that he missed, I think he got fouled on as he's driving to the lane. So I'll take that back. Chaney Johnson, Denver Jones, I can live with what they did on both ends of the floor for this team in this game. But yeah, Denver can be a guy I think that you can give the ball to and let him, operate. And he needs more of those opportunities to do that. Let's see here. Steve Bradley jumps in and says, can't play every game in Neville. We need to learn how to win other than at home. Losses have been away. All losses have been away. Agreed. Yeah. Haven't lost at home. You've lost a neutral site game, and you've lost 3 road games so far this season. So neutral site and 3 road games are your 4 losses so far this season. At the end of the day, you still only have 4 losses. Still a lot of basketball left to be played, but you have to figure out how to get this road dub out of your system. TS feels like Chaney should have been given more minutes. Let's see. Chaney Johnson played 14 minutes in this game. Yeah, I could agree with that. I think Chaney probably could have played more minutes. He didn't have any fouls in this game, and he felt like he was playing with some confidence out there. I could agree with that. I don't think Chaney played a bad game. Yeah, I'm trying to think about whose minutes would I have swapped his out for. The way Chad played at points in this game, I would say maybe just take Chad out of the game and let Chaney come in, because Chad was 1 of 6 shooting in this game for only 3 points. He had 6 boards, which was good. 1 assist and 2 turnovers in 23 minutes. Like, the 23 minutes is the part of that that's not good. Like, you can't play 23 minutes but only come up with 3 points as Chad. And that 3-pointer was early in the game. He wasn't effective for the remainder of the game offensively. So, let's see here. What else do we got here? Chris K says, tied at 21 at the half, they feel like they get ahead of themselves and rush shots a bit. I think that's the more disappointing thing about this, is that you went into the half tied up. Now, number one, you only scored 21 points in the first half. So we can start there with only scoring 21 points. When we look at the half-by-half comparison in this game, in the first half of this game, Auburn was 7 of 25 shooting, which is 28% and abysmal, right? From the 3-point line, you were 2 of 10 for only 20%. Like, 25 shots up is kind of crazy. Let me look at what Mississippi State did. Ole Miss got 31 shots on up in the first half, knocked down 10 of them. But again, it's the second chance points that you're giving up there. Offensive rebounds in the first half, they gave up 11, only 3 in the second half, right? So you weren't getting killed on the offensive glass in the second half of this game, but 11 offensive boards in the first half of this game that Auburn surrendered is crazy. And you went into the half tied after giving all of that up. So terrible shooting in the first half. You give up 11 offensive boards and you go into the half tied. You put yourself in a position where you could play probably no worse than you did. And you went out there and you didn't play worse, but you didn't play much better. And you actually got worse defensively because you started to look tired later in the game. So just not a good game overall, just from start to finish for this team. Let's see. What else do we got here? Robert Guy says, poor shot selection every quad one game and really not setting an offensive play. I know, let's just have KD Johnson run in and try to score over 3 players. That's the play. Actually, they were running sets. Now, it doesn't look like, I think the issue with some of them is, again, like they were out of sync offensively in some spaces where they were running some sets. It was just that guys were, I'll agree with you on the shot selection. The shots that they took out of those sets weren't particularly good. The let KD do blah, blah, blah. KD took 6 shots in the game. It's not like KD was fogging it up, throwing up a bunch of crazy shots in this one. I just think that when KD went in there, he wasn't taking the best shot that was available to him, because this isn't, KD used to be more of a guy that went out there to seek contact, and that was the reason why he was missing. He looked like he was actually avoiding contact a little bit in this game when he got into the lane. So he was not necessarily out of control, but he wasn't really he wasn't in attack mode to go get buckets in a crafty way. He wasn't crafty in the lane the way that he's been at other points in this game. The one shot that he hit was off of the flex cut where he got the easy layup. But outside of that, he just wasn't able to knock anything down. 0 of 2 from the 3-point line tonight for KD Johnson. And again, another night where KD, Jalen, Trey Donaldson, Chris Moore, who missed 2 wide open threes, and I think that's it. So KD, Jalen, Trey, Chris, all 0 for 6, 7, 8, 9, 0 for 10. If you add the one that Chaney took out there, 0 for 11 from guys who can all shoot the 3, 0 for 11 from 3. Like, you don't need to be in a game where Janai Broome is your best 3-point shooter. Like, that's just, I mean, he was only shot 1, but he made it, right? So he took the 3 in a scenario where he was open, and I'm not gonna lie to you. When he took it, I was like, no, okay, you made it. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know, man. I still haven't gotten my confidence in his ability to knock him down, but Janai has, offensively, he's been playing well. For him to only take 7 shots again in this game, 5 of 7 shooting and 14 points, I think that's criminal. They've got to figure out a way. If you're going to play him heavy minutes, you got to give him a heavy amount of touches as well. So got to do better. Got to do better. TJ Fab says the deep passes and the probably easier shot, but passed up a 3 had me about to throw my remote at the TV. Yeah, I mean, like the pass ahead stuff that they were doing. You know, Chad had one that they tried to hit to Janai, and Aiden had one, I think, that he tried to throw to Chad, if I'm not mistaken, or was it Chaney? I think it was maybe Chaney on that one. Was just I don't know. I think that there was just they were bad times for you to try to get that going when the game was close. Pretty much the entirety of the game was close, but the game was close. You need a good quality shot. And just some very ill-advised times. The one time where Trey threw the slip screen to Jay Will, it was almost as if he just kind of predetermined, okay, Jay Will's going to slip the screen and I'm going to throw it to him. It didn't really matter what the defense was doing. I'm just going to make this pass. And Jay Will didn't look like he was ready for it. The defense was already, coming off the corner. They were ready for the slip screen on that one. Just wasn't a good read by him on that one. Let's see here. Ben Bloodworth jumps in and says, I am so sick of us preferring the three while not being able to get a simple layup. I mean, listen, I definitely think that there were some times where the threes were ill advised, but I think that this team just needs to make threes, right? Like, because 24 3-point attempts is not a lot for one game. That's not a lot. Like, I expect this team to shoot 20 in the mid 20s of threes in a game. But I think they just need to make them, right? Like, you can't go over for KD Johnson, Jalen Williams, Trey Donaldson, Chris Moore. Again, I just don't understand why. Chris Moore used to be more reliable than this from three. I don't know what's happened to him on that. And Chaney Johnson all making none of their attempts there, right? Like, those were shots that you should be able to make because they were open. Again, I can point to some bad threes that were taken in this game, but that wasn't the majority of the threes taken in this game. The bigger problem I have is the missed layups, right? I think that shooting in the mid 30s per game is really where you need to be. So if they had made, 7, 8, like I thought that they should be able to in this game, then that'll put them right in the range where I thought that they should have been able to. Is you make 7 to 8 threes while taking 25 or less. That's where you need to be. But the missed layups, like points in the paint in this game, I mean, let's just take a look at that because I'm sure Mississippi State dominated this. Points in the paint, 34-20 in favor of Mississippi State, is just atrocious. Like, you can't give up 34 and you're only making 20, especially considering what your percentage was on those. Let me see if I can get into the percentages on that. Because that is, I think, the real story of what you were doing in this game. It's just your inability listen, the overall percentages that you have in this game were bad. So let's see. I don't think I have an ability to get that as an analytic from this. I'm sure it's somewhere, but the number of missed shots at point blank range was just an atrocious amount. Tony Baker says, my problem is I didn't even see adjustments. I love Bruce, but I truly think he's giving them too much freedom to play. That's an interesting take. I don't know whether or not there were any adjustments, but I will definitely take a look at the film. This is one I think that, looking at this week, I'll probably do for my members. We'll do some sort of film breakdown on both the Alabama and Mississippi State games. So be on the lookout for that on Monday. I think we'll dive into those games and talk about some missed opportunities and some things that we saw from both of those games that are trending. Let's see here. Lisa Y says, if I am not mistaken, we missed 2 free throws and both were by guards. No way guards should be missing free throws. Free throw attempts in this game, yep, the 2 misses. One came from Aiden and the other one came from Trey Donaldson. So you are correct, Lisa. Let's see. There's a lot of you guys have been chatting for a while and I'm way behind here. So let me get to some of these later ones. Riley Mobley says, I'm giving up Auburn basketball for Lent. It's also a good move for my health. My Lent starts today. I am not giving up, but I am happy to see that you are doing what you need to do for your mental health. My mental health is just fine. I will be okay, and so will Auburn. Let's see. Y'all have to learn how to ignore trolls, by the way. It's really simple. Like, just let them say whatever they want to. And there's all right, so let me teach y'all a little something. If you don't like what people are saying, because it don't bother me at all when people get in here and start trolling. But let me just teach you guys a little something so that you don't let yourself be wrapped up in what people are doing. If you are on your computer and there's somebody who's saying something that you feel like is trollish, there's 3 little buttons out there next to them, and you can go in and you can hide the user or mute them, and you don't have to see them no more. If you're on your phone, I think you can do the same thing by clicking on their name, and it'll give you the option. Just mute them and keep it moving. No, he can say whatever he wants to. Listen, Auburn lost the game. So when you lose, people get to come in and talk junk. It's just kind of how it goes, man. We can't make a living on Twitter being the tweet mob that goes out there and bombs everybody's scores and then be mad when people talk junk when we take L's. So kind of is what it is, man. Y'all let that stuff roll off of you and keep it moving. Tony Baker says we are all frustrated, but we do love our boys. They'll get it together and together they're and then we'll breathe again. I think that was a type of "we'll breathe again." Thanks for all you do, Ike War Damn Eagle. Hey, no problem there, Tony, man. Listen, we are good. They're good. They're gonna figure it out. Again, this team is super talented. They didn't just, Monstars didn't come in and steal the talent of this basketball team. They've just got to get locked in, particularly on their ability to shoot the basketball. Because, listen, the opportunities were there. There were shots that were there for them to be able to make that were, again, wide open. It wasn't like every possession down there Mississippi State was locking them up. Now, Mississippi State had some really good defensive possessions, but Auburn had some wide open looks. Conversely, Mississippi State didn't have a ton of wide open looks, particularly from three is what I'm talking about. So the shots from the outside, Auburn had some very good wide open looks that they just absolutely did not make. Now, where Auburn was messing up was allowing some of those backdoor cuts to get in there late in the game for open shots. And that way, Tolu Smith had a beautiful pass out of a double team where he, passed it over the top and they got an easy layup out of that. That's where Auburn was giving up the open looks. But listen, Auburn got a lot of shots that they want to be able to get in this game. And I think people, you overlook that stuff because you look at the outcome and you say, oh, Auburn's not, they didn't shoot the ball well, but they got the kind of shots you want. And it wasn't like they were getting shots from guys who you don't want to take that shot. The only guy who you really don't want having wide open looks that got them was Semo, right? Like you don't want to live and die with Chris Moore being your wide open three guy. He only took two of them in the game. So that's a win for Mississippi State when you get a Semo three out of a possession. But you want Trey Donaldson to shoot wide open threes, and he got one tonight that he didn't knock down. Let's see, how many did Trey take? Yeah, he got one that he didn't knock down. You want Jay Will taking wide open threes. Three of them ones that he took wide open. He should have been able to knock them down. That's a shot you expect Jalen Williams to make. He's made it. That when in the games we've won, Jay Will's made that shot. So it's not that it wasn't a bad shot in any of the other games. He just didn't make it tonight. You want KD Johnson to take the shots that he took tonight from three. One of them I think was a little bit like for the point in the game where he took it. I don't think it was great, but it was open. That's a shot KD needs to make as a D1 athlete that makes that he needs to make that shot. He needs to at least go 50% tonight from three. He took two. He needs to make one. Chad Baker-Mazara, 1 of 3 from three. And the other two looks that he got were shots he's made. So you're getting the kind of shots that you want, but you've got to figure out how to make those shots in those situations where you're not running away with the game. Denver, he knocked down his 2 of 3. But Jay Will being 0 of 4 is just like that's crazy. And then I think the big one is Aiden being one of the best pure shooters on this team has to be better than 2 of 7 from 3. Has to be. Especially, again, when a lot of those are makeable shots. Makeable shots. So you just got to be able to make the shots that are available to you. And if you can do that, you win basketball games. I think that, again, sometimes we get too caught up in the outcomes and start to think, oh, Auburn's just terrible. And it's like, that's not really the case, man. You just got to make the shots that are there. And if this team is making shots at a higher clip, at a clip that's closer to what they were doing during this stretch where they were blowing teams out, then they're going to get back to their winning ways. But I think conversely, when they're not making those shots, Auburn has to find another way to be able to generate points. And that was the biggest problem I've had in these last 2 games, is not finding other ways. You've fallen in love with, and this goes back to what you were saying earlier, Ben, about falling in love with the 3 and not making your 2s. Though those are shots that you've made in your season, not even career, in your season thus far, if you realize that you're not making those shots, do you have something else that you can go to offensively to go and generate your points? And that's where I think Auburn's got to find their offensive identity in a better way. Better way to be able to find that. Let's see. I I don't think I have anything else that I want to say in regards to this. I think that, we got some film that we need to look at. Maybe it'll calm us down a little bit. So we'll get into that on Monday. But I am going to get out of here because I still got work that I need to do. But y'all have a wonderful evening. Oh, let me make sure I didn't go past anything here. I didn't. Okay. But y'all have a wonderful evening. We'll be back at you guys tomorrow with the weekend tailgate and talk a little bit more about what we got going on with football. Hopefully we get a defensive coordinator hire here coming up soon, and definitely got to talk about all of the things going down with the football team. But until the next time, share the video, like the video, all that stuff, subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back at you tomorrow. War Eagle, y'all. Peace.